Hey everyone, I want to add my 2 cents to a topic that's been going around the Pokemon Pocket community recently, and it's all about the upcoming cards. We have 2 sets of Pokemon Pocket cards coming in the near future. One in December, which is a mini set. I talked about that in a previous video. If you're curious, you can go check that out. I'll leave it linked in the description and at the end of this video. But we also have a major set coming in January, which is going to be of a similar scale to Genetic Apex. Recently, people have been discussing what new features or what new gameplay mechanics are going to be coming in that set, or in either the January set or the mini set that's coming up very shortly. The reason this has been coming up as a topic of discussion is because there's 2 things we know that are definitely coming soon TM. Let's first talk about the one that I think is the most exciting, which is Pokemon tools. If we go to build a new deck, we can go to edit, and thankfully all of this is just in the game. You can just look at this. If you go all the way down to trainers, you can see all the different trainer types in the game. We can click on items and you'll see all the items. You've seen these before, your Pokeballs, your potions, your X-Speeds, but you can also scroll down to that same section and go to supporters. You can check out all the supporters, and you can even filter for specifically just the fossils, which is kind of interesting. But there's this 4th option, which is currently not functional. There's Pokemon tools. If I click on Pokemon tools, you'll see that we can't filter for Pokemon tools because there are no Pokemon tools in the game. This is for future content that's not present yet. So obviously they have plans for Pokemon tools. If you're not familiar with the Pokemon trading card game, because I didn't play the Pokemon trading card game either, Pokemon tools are cards that you equip onto Pokemon. So a Pokemon tool might read something like, this can't be affected by status conditions, so maybe you can't sleep or something like that. Or it might read something like, when you attach this to a Pokemon, if it's a non-EX Pokemon, it gets some type of bonus health. Whenever someone deals damage to this Pokemon, they take 20 damage or something like that. There's lots of different things they could do with Pokemon tools, and it's nice to know that they've clearly already designed some Pokemon tools, and I'm excited to see what those Pokemon tools are going to be. It seems pretty obvious to me that if Pokemon tools are even in this searching function, they must have some Pokemon tools ready to go, either in the upcoming mini set in December or in January for the 2nd major set of Pokemon Pocket. But it doesn't stop there. If you go to the homepage, and, well, I guess you don't have to do it from the homepage, but if you go to the menu and you go to tips, you can go down to, where is it here? You can go to About Battle Rules, and then you can go to Pokemon Checkup and Special Conditions, and you can find 2 special conditions that aren't currently in the game in this list. So they clearly have plans for these upcoming special conditions. So the first one to go over is Burned. Burn is not currently in the game. Let's read what Burn does in Pokemon Pocket. Burned Pokemon take 20 damage during the Pokemon checkup. The player whose Pokemon is burned flips a coin during each checkup, and if heads, the Pokemon recovers from being burned. If tails, the Pokemon stays burned. Burned can stack with other special conditions, so you can be both burned and poisoned, you can be both burned and slept. These are important things to keep in mind. Now, it's not entirely clear to me reading this paragraph whether you take the 20 damage first and then do the coin flip check. I'm really curious to know whether you do take the damage first or whether you coin flip first, because if you coin flip first, Burn does not have any guaranteed damage built into it, which is kind of interesting. I'm curious how that plays out. I think that you take the damage first, but I've been wrong before, and I don't have a way of knowing just based on reading this paragraph. I'm curious to how it works in the Pokemon TCG, someone let me know in the comments. And from what I understand, this is functioning a little different from the Pokemon TCG anyway, so perhaps that doesn't really give us much insight regardless. And then the status condition that I'm actually the most excited about is this other status condition here, Confusion. When confused Pokemon attack, the owner must flip a coin. If heads, the attack works normally, but if tails, the attack doesn't happen and the player's turn ends. Note that sleep, paralyze, and confusion cannot stack with others, with other special conditions, and if one of those special conditions is applied, it replaces any previous status conditions or any of the others. So if your Pokemon is confused and then it is put to sleep, it will be slept, but it will not be confused anymore. What's really fun about confusion, at least in my opinion, is that it's kind of like a permanent sleep. If their opponent's put to sleep, they flip their coin and they wake up, they don't have to worry about that sleep anymore. But if you confuse them, it's a less consistent version of sleep because they can retreat out and they have a little bit more flexibility there. They have a bit more agency over what to do about the fact that they're confused. But confusion is like pseudo-permanent, at least based on what I can tell on this paragraph. If the opponent wakes up or the opponent successfully attacks with a confused Pokemon, that Pokemon's still going to be confused next turn. So if they put like a Mewtwo in the active slot, they've got Side Drive built up, they're ready to hit me for 150 damage, but I confuse them, Well, now they have to make an interesting decision. Do they retreat to get rid of the confusion before they use all of that energy on side drive? Or do they just use the side drive, hope they win the 50-50? If they win the 50-50, they still have to do that again next turn, right? They have to do two 50-50s in a row. At some point, the opponent's going to have to decide, do I retreat to get rid of this confusion so that I can guaranteed swing with side drive next turn? Or do I take the risk and win two 50-50s in a row? Generally speaking, these status conditions and special effects, these are all relatively strong against like big Pokemon. So like your Mewtwo's, your Charizards, these types of things that want to sit in the actives for long periods of time. Or I guess Charizard's not a good example, but it's good against like big basic Pokemon. So like Articuno, Mewtwo, these Pokemon that just want to sit in the active and just like kill you. The special conditions are really good against them. And I could see Confusion specifically being quite good against Mewtwo and Articuno and these types of things that usually have pretty big tempo leads in the early game, because the longer they have those status conditions on them, the more likely it is to negatively affect them, and especially Confusion. I'm really excited for Confusion. I hope that similar to Hypno, we get a Pokemon that can apply Confusion from the bench, because there's lots of interesting strategies you can get away with if that is the case. I'm going to leave you there, though. There's not too much else to talk about other than the fact that we know Confusion's coming, we know Burned is coming, and we know that Pokemon tools are coming, and I'm really excited about all of that. Let me know what you're interested in for Set 2. I'm really hopeful that Set 2 has the Confusion stuff. I'm really looking forward to Confusion, and I'm also looking forward to those Pokemon tools. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Keep being awesome, and I'll catch you in the next one.